Welcome back to another edition of the Chuck Taylor Show. Today we're talking Penn State football. After a disastrous 2 weeks, were our preseason expectations too high? Where do they go from here? And can their season be salvaged? I'm not Nittany lying when I tell you this is one episode you don't want to miss. Penn State came into the season with enormous expectations from both their fans and national media. They were ranked second in the preseason AP poll and picked by many media publications to be a national championship contender. This was primarily based off their national semifinal run last season, as well as a strong returning class, including a Heisman contending quarterback. Pair that with getting 2 of their 3 toughest games at home, and you can see why expectations were high. In fact, high expectations should probably be the norm for Penn State now. They've won double-digit games 3 seasons in a row. They've been a fixture in the AP top 10 during that span, and they've really separated themselves as the second or third most consistent team in the Big Ten. That consistency continued to show itself early this season as Penn State began 2025 with 3 lopsided victories. Penn State seems to subscribe to this weak out-of-conference scheduling model that we have now seen Indiana try to implement as well, where they really try to play nobody out of conference and just simply stack wins so that their overall win-loss record at the end of the season is a little more impressive. This is the opposite approach that we see Ohio State and Michigan take as they played Texas and Oklahoma respectively out of conference at the beginning of the season. Regardless, this philosophy worked out as intended as they took care of Nevada, Florida International, and Villanova without even breaking a sweat. The confidence of the team and the swagger around the fan base was at an all-time high, and they busted out the Whiteout just 2 weeks ago for their big game against Oregon. The Oregon game really felt like a crossroads game for the Nittany Lions. Not only were they looking for revenge on the Ducks for the Big Ten championship game, but they felt like they had the better, more experienced team at home with a chance to change this narrative around James Franklin that despite all of his success, he just can't win the big game. Franklin is just 4-21 against AP top 10 teams in his career as the head man of the Nittany Lions. 111,000 rabid fans filled Beaver Stadium, expecting their night of triumph that was going to lead them to a conference and possible national championship. However, despite their best efforts, the Nittany Lions came up just short in overtime, suffering another tragic defeat in one of their biggest games. The fans didn't take it well, and the outrage was immediate and loud. Fans were even going as far to call for James Franklin's job. I was quite honestly pretty stunned to see this. Despite those struggles in these big games, his overall success is undeniable. His teams are constantly reaching the brink of excellence, and they've maintained the success now over quite an extended period of time. If you throw out the COVID years, they've been quite successful. For the most part, they take care of the games that they're supposed to win, and in the end, it gives them a really strong resume come the end of the regular season. That's what made what happened the next week so shocking. They followed up that home disappointing loss to Oregon by traveling across the country and dropping a mind-numbing game to winless UCLA. This was one of those classic games where you let a hugely disappointing big loss bleed over into the next week, and that loss really turns into 2. Not to mention that I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but this is a cross-country flight from Pennsylvania to California. This is the reality of the new Big Ten. These teams are undertaking massive travel, and sometimes in the right time slot or with the way the schedule falls, these situations are going to sneak up on good teams and cost them games just like this. James Franklin, to his credit, acknowledged many of the things I just mentioned, and he took full responsibility for the loss.
Yeah, obviously we did not handle last week's loss well. We also lost some players in that game during the week, and then everything else. Travel, everything else. Did not come out with the right energy to start the game, and before you know it, Obviously, they get a touchdown drive and an onside kick, and now you're fighting. They gain confidence, and we're fighting for the next 3 quarters. So that's my responsibility, and I didn't get it done.
But it didn't do anything for that chatter about James Franklin's job. If anything, it's like someone took gasoline to the fire and it is now engulfed in flames. The fans are frustrated. Penn State is now 3-2 and they're 0-2 in the Big Ten. They've got to go to Ohio State in a few weeks and they need to get things cleaned up fast. There's a lot to clean up here too. Quarterback Drew Allar, he's played okay this season. The former 5-star recruit has only turned the ball over twice through 5 games this season, but he's averaging under 200 passing yards and he's failed to provide the offense with a desperately needed explosiveness. An explosiveness needed because they've really struggled to run the football. The Nittany Lions managed only 147 yards on the ground in their previous 2 contests, while giving up a whopping 228 yards to their opponents. They were torn apart by UCLA for 280 yards on the ground, and the Bruins have struggled to move the ball on anybody this season. This allowed UCLA to double the time of possession, jump out to a nearly insurmountable halftime lead, and pull off the historic upset. These 2 losses have shown that Penn State has a ton of work to do on both sides of the ball. It makes you wonder, where do they go from here? They don't have much time to figure it out, but they do have 2 games that can be considered get-right games, as they host Northwestern this weekend and then travel to Iowa. Anytime you go to Iowa, that has the chance to be a sneaky tough game. But overall, those are 2 very winnable games, and it would put them in position finally to lick their wounds with a bye just before going to the Horseshoe to play Ohio State. You have to believe that those 2 games in back-to-back weeks at Ohio State and then home against Indiana are going to define the season the rest of the way. Even if this team patches up some of these holes and plays well, but recent history still holds true, they could still play well and go 8-4. Not to mention Nebraska comes to town late in the season, and Michigan State's a little bit better than people expected this year. So those other games are far from gimmies. Let's talk about the flip side though. Can their season be salvaged? What if they were to win those other 2 games? I know James Franklin's 4-21. We've talked about it in this video. He struggled tremendously, but they did just take Oregon to overtime and had chances to win that football game. Oregon might be the best team in the country. I know they beat Boise State last year, but they did go to the national semifinal of the college football playoff. They played Notre Dame really well and had shots of advancing to the national championship. At some point, you have to believe they finally get over the hump. At some point, you have to believe they win a game like that. If they're able to string 2 wins together like that, back to back, and are able to play this thing out to 10-2, if that's the only game Ohio State loses, they could very well still get left out of the Big Ten championship. It would very likely still be Oregon and Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, and Penn State would be sitting there at 10-2, having won 2 potential top 10 games in November, and would have a very strong resume for the college football playoff without even having to play in that conference championship game. That could be best case scenario for Penn State. So can they salvage the season? Absolutely, they can salvage the season. There's still a ton to play for. I know this is a monumental what if. I know this is the same hypothetical game that you guys have been talking yourselves into for over a decade. I know. I get it. I get it. I do. For the fans calling for James Franklin's head, the ones that have been vocal for the past 2 weeks asking for the man to be fired, I would just caution you to be careful what you wish for. Just because you make a change, that's no guarantee that that'll be the change that does get you over the hump. James Franklin's done a tremendous job of building this program and this team and putting them in a position to be a national contender. I know losing the big games are frustrating, but he's had the success to put you in the position to be in those big games. I know the history. I know Penn State is a brand. I know that they'll probably draw tremendous interest from lots of really amazing candidates if that position were to come available. However, I would just tell you to pump the brakes. This season, right here, right now, it can still be salvaged. 2025 can still be the year that they break the chains. They change the narrative. I know it doesn't feel like it right now. I know right now it's dark, it's hard, it's tough. You're the butt of all the jokes. Don't give up yet. Don't give up yet, Nittany Lion Nation. There's still time to get it right. Do I think you're going to go into the shoe and win? No? But you could. You might. Do I think you could beat Indiana? Oh, yes. Yes, I do. Oh, hey, come on. Pull yourself up. That leads me to today's burning question. How many wins do you think Penn State ends up with? What's the final record? Do you see them possibly running the table? Is 10-2 even possibly in the cards? Let me know in the comments where you think they'll land in the Big Ten. The final record will be. I, for one, don't think the time has run out on James Franklin. But boy, that expiration date might be getting real close. It might be getting real close. That's going to do it for me today, and I will catch you on the next one, guys. As always, if you enjoyed the content, hit the like down below, subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend, and hopefully I'll see you guys on the next one. Later, dudes.